Jong was quite astonished. A warm energy is wrapping around my torso. Is this what Go-chan referred to as chi? According to Go-chan, chi takes a long time to cultivate. However, this method allows me to absorb someone else's chi. In other words, I can get stronger in a shorter period of time. Just when Jong thought he was about to become invincible, the chi he had just absorbed suddenly dissipated. It just scattered away. Jong confusedly said, "It turns out that the cultivation of chi requires a special breathing technique so that the energy core can firmly hold onto it. Due to the specificity of this condensed chi, it is not easy to mix with someone else's chi. This means, attempting to condense and maintain chi through the ritual of attachment is not feasible." Jong felt deeply disappointed, but the woman in red encouraged him not to be discouraged. The ritual of attachment has its uses as is. After all, this is just the basics of the thought-shattering 8 techniques. Even mastering just one of these techniques can reveal endless possibilities. Although the chi you absorb will quickly dissipate, chi is still chi. Try to concentrate the chi into your hand by circulating it. This left Jong thoroughly confused. Chi circulation involves guiding the images in the mind to channel the energy, and as long as this is achieved, chi can be condensed into the palms. The woman in red did not believe Jong could achieve this because, for a novice, without a breathing mantra, even exceptional talent is useless. However, things developed unexpectedly. Without any warning, the chi that had just dissipated now slowly started to condense into Jong's palms. He threw a punch, and a thick beam was easily snapped into two. This completely astonished the woman in red. Having seen many prodigies in her lifetime, it was the first time she had witnessed such an exceptional child. A complete novice in martial arts had executed a technique for chi circulation as a complete beginner. That's great. Jong is astonished at what he can do. Just who is he? The woman in red became more curious. Looking at Jong, the woman in red can't help but think, I've seen countless talented individuals in my lifetime, but I've never met someone like him before. At this moment, Jong was reveling in the power of his punch, remarking, no wonder everyone wants to learn martial arts. Just mastering this makes it much easier to kill, Jong casually stated. This comment once again astounded the woman in red. This boy was not only incredibly talented, but he had also perceived the essence of martial arts, how to effectively kill an opponent. Just then, Jong called out to the woman in red and eagerly asked what the second technique of the thought-shattering 8 techniques was. The woman was about to answer, when suddenly, thinking of something, she turned her head away haughtily, almost tricked by you again. I absolutely will not help you. I just slipped up earlier. Now she finally understood why those old masters were always shouting about taking disciples. Seeing the woman revert to her uninterested demeanor, Jong felt somewhat disappointed. He had intended to ask about the origin of the black energy on his hands, but given the current situation, he presumed she would not answer. Perhaps it was better to explore on his own. Meanwhile, on the other side, Lady Suk guard Hoang arrived at the Phoenix Pavilion. As soon as she entered the room, she was greeted by an assortment of eerie wooden sculptures, which made her spine chill. Just as she was about to speak, a nearby candlestick spontaneously ignited, filling the surroundings with a strange atmosphere. She quickly relayed the message that Shaman Myo had been killed by the third young master. This is Lady Suk's expression of grief, 300 silver niang, and she stated that if the other party was willing to take on the commission to kill the third young master, the lady would add an extra 400 silver nian as a reward. However, after she finished speaking, the room remained eerily silent, only the candlestick extinguished by itself. It seemed the deal was done. Hoang immediately turned to leave. Although the room was empty, she felt as if a pair of eyes were staring intently at her back, sending shivers down her spine. After Hoang left, several figures suddenly appeared in the previously empty room, holding staffs and wearing veils. They all gathered around the corpse of Shaman Myo. Based on Hoang's description, they quickly confirmed that the third young master had employed a ghost spirit, and moreover, one of the yellow spirit level. However, they were puzzled, as normally a vengeful spirit could not become a familiar, meaning this third young master was quite dangerous. The leader of the pavilion softly instructed, one of you, go immediately and kill this third young master. In the morning, Jong got up and ordered Go-chan to bring a brazier. Just as Go-chan wondered what he intended to do, Jong took out 2 martial arts secret manuals from his bosom. Those were the peerless techniques everyone dreamed of. Go-chan was instantly shocked, and before he could recover, Jong nonchalantly tore the manuals to shreds and threw them into the brazier. Go-chan exclaimed in disbelief, unable to process what was happening. This insane bastard just burned the secret manual. Unable to understand the reason behind this, Go-chan questions Jong, what are you doing? Such a waste of heaven-sent treasures. You're crazy. Third young master, although I know you do not know martial arts, everyone wants these manuals. You could have used them properly. Jong, unconcerned, casually threw a new manual at Go-chan's face, scoffing, that's exactly why I burned them. The real techniques have all been preserved here. He pointed at his head. So now, only I can utilize them. Hearing this, Go-chan suddenly understood, but Jong's next statement shocked him even more. Before the sun rises, make sure to deliver this manual to Lady Suk and the second young master. Go-chan was both surprised and puzzled. Didn't you say everyone wants it? Jong smirked in response, ironically, I am a person who loves peace, so isn't it a beautiful thing if if I can share it with my family? Looking at the sinister smile on Jong's face, Go-chan could not fathom the depths of his schemes. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Guard Cam got up in the morning and started tidying his room, then carefully checked what needed to be done today. This was a habit he developed while working as an assassin, living strictly according to a planned schedule. However, soon he wouldn't need to live this way, because if he could successfully help the second young master ascend to the position of family head, he would become an elder of Mock Sword Manor. Thinking of the wonderful life beckoning to him, Guard Cam felt extremely relaxed. However, reality often deviates from expectations. At that moment, a servant came to inform him that the second young master needed him. Moments later, outside Mok Yunpyeong's room, Guard Cam stood there, his head bleeding. Just a while ago, it turned out that Cho Il-sang's disappearance had infuriated Mok Yunpyeong, who blamed everything on Guard Cam. Guard Cam was at a loss, but still firmly promised that he had not deceived the second young master. However, by this point, the second young master had already lost trust in him and picked up an inkstone from the desk and smashed it at Guard Cam's head. Then why hasn't escort Cho returned yet? With Guard Cam's skills, he could have easily dodged, but he chose not to, knowing that if he continued to act against the second young master now, his plans for a change of masters would be ruined. He had invested too much to give up now. Having come so far, Guard Cam would not allow such an incident to occur. Enduring the pain on his head, he swore with his right arm, "Please give me some time. I will find out the truth and explain everything to you." Seeing Guard Cam's demeanor did not seem deceptive, Mok Yunpyeong pondered for a moment, then said, "Good, then prove it to me. If you can find Cho Il-sang within 2 hours, I will believe you. But if you fail, you will lose not just your arm, but your life." "I'll keep that in mind," Guard Cam answered immediately. Moments later, Guard Cam left the room furiously, his mind racing. Ever since that imposter appeared, everything had deviated from his plan. Although he thought Jong was unlikely to be involved, if that boy had used some trick, Guard Cam would not let him off easily. Thinking this, he headed straight for Jong's room. However, he hadn't gone far when he suddenly ran into Go-chan, and seeing Go-chan looking disheveled, Guard Cam, furious, abruptly grabbed his neck. "Didn't I tell you not to take your eyes off that boy for even a moment? Do you think I was joking?" Go-chan was already guilty and faltered under Guard Cam's tirade, but just as he tried to argue, Guard Cam suddenly noticed the manual in Go-chan's arms. Guard Cam snatched the manual. Go-chan immediately felt something was wrong, but it was already too late. When Guard Cam saw the name on the cover, even he showed a look of disbelief. He then called out to Go-chan, which made Go-chan shiver. "What have you been doing this whole time?" At this moment, rage completely took over Guard Cam. Go-chan gritted his teeth while sweating profusely. Soon after, Guard Cam, dragging an injured Go-chan, headed towards Jong's room, pushed open the door, and violently threw Go-chan's body inside. Seeing Go-chan lying on the ground, barely alive, Jong revealed a meaningful smile. "Welcome. I've been waiting for you, Guard Cam. Explain yourself." Jong's composed demeanor infuriated Guard Cam, who grabbed Jong's neck and demanded, "If you try anything funny, I'll kill you." Jong smiled and responded, "Did you say that? I can't recall. What exactly did you do to the second young master's guard?" Jong feigned innocence and calmly replied, "What could someone who doesn't know martial arts possibly do to him?" Guard Cam knew Jong was right but still felt uneasy. Jong before him had killed the real third young master without hesitation. With such cunning, how could he be expected to obey? Suddenly, Guard Cam realized, it must be this guy who killed Cho Il-sang. Thinking this, Guard Cam immediately drew a dagger, determined, a person like this must not be allowed to live. Seeing Guard Cam pull out a weapon, Jong showed an excited smile. "What will you do now?" "Guard Cam, you switched sides, but the damn fake killed the second sun guard." Guard Cam was extremely furious. As a sword crossed, blood splattered. However, Jong did not die. With eyes full of reluctance, Guard Cam growled, "For 3 years. Do you know how I survived these 3 years? To get into Mock Sword Manor, I spent all the money and time I had. Every day, I had to do various chores, and it was hard enough to make it till now. But now you've ruined everything, so I must kill you, or I too will die here." Guard Cam roared in anger, "I'm going to kill you and leave. I have no other option." At that moment, an idea suddenly flashed into his mind. "No!" Guard Cam shouted, which startled Jong. "Cho Il-sang's already dead. There's nothing that can be done about that, but there is something that can replace him." At that moment, Guard Cam pulled out a manual from his bosom. "But now, you still have one chance. Tell me where the rest of the manuals are. Maybe then, I'll spare your life. You have it, right? Answer me." Seeing Guard Cam finally showing his true colors, Jong smirked coldly, but still maintained an innocent appearance. "I don't know what you're talking about." Seeing that soft tactics were ineffective, Guard Cam once again pointed the dagger at Jong's neck, threatening, "If things go wrong for me, I can just kill you and leave. But who knows? It might change my mind if you give me the rest of the secret manual. But if you keep lying that you don't know, you're going to die a terrible and slow death filled with suffering. So you better give it up while I still have my patience." Jong sighed lightly. "All right, I'll give them to you now." Hearing this, Guard Cam instantly became excited, hastily reaching for the manuals from Jong. But the next second, Jong placed his own hand on Guard Cam's, smirking coldly. "Now, I've given them to you. The manuals are all in my mind." Guard Cam flew into a rage instantly, ready to punish Jong, but Jong suddenly gripped his hand tightly. A strange power suddenly emerges, and Guard Cam is utterly momentarily shocked. Thought-shattering 8 techniques. First technique, attachment, and Guard Cam's chi began to flow continuously into Jong's body. Jong stated coldly, I was considering who to use this trick on, but you've come to me voluntarily. I'm so grateful for that. Guard Cam was shocked, trying to withdraw his hand, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't pull it back. In panic, Guard Cam raised his dagger and stabbed towards Jong. Fortunately, Jong dodged in time, avoiding the lethal strike, but in that instant, their hands separated. Then, Guard Cam kicked Jong flying, but by then, he had lost sensation in his hand. Although he didn't understand how the other party did it, he knew that if he delayed any longer, his life would be at risk. As expected of a first-rate martial artist, that wasn't enough. Sensing the overwhelming killing intent, Jong realized that the tricks he used before were not enough to confront a top-level master. I'll have to find a different way to kill you. At this moment, filled with murderous intent, Guard Cam had no hesitation, raising the dagger to completely eradicate Jong. Jong decisively summoned Demon Monk. With a low chant, Guard Cam's hand was weirdly suspended in midair. Just as he wondered what was happening, Jong quickly grabbed the fallen dagger. What have you done this time? Jong looked at him fiercely. Well, another dirt little trick. I'll show you in more detail. At this time, Demon Monk is grabbing Guard Cam's arm fiercely, then pulling him immediately. Jong sneered, I'll give this back to you. Both your inner energy and this dagger. Jong fiercely stabbed the dagger into Guard Cam's body. The intense pain made Guard Cam involuntarily grunt. They were both yours. After all, the sudden turn of events made Guard Cam stagger back. That was bad. The location he stabbed me in is dangerous. If I take this incorrectly, the bleeding is going to be fatal. At this moment, Guard Cam already regretted bringing such a calamity back, but he still had a trick up his sleeve. He sneered, Third young master, you haven't forgotten about the poison pill, right? Hearing this, Jong smirked. Go on, let's negotiate. If we continue fighting, it's likely to end with both of us hurt. How about this? I give you the antidote and money. Isn't your goal to get out of here anyway? Right now, Guard Cam thought that if he could just bow his head temporarily, he could always find another opportunity to eliminate Jong later. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly spat out blood and fell to his knees. Jong just stared at him blankly. Guard Cam was full of confusion, as the damage from just before was clearly not fatal. What was going on? Why am I so severely injured now? Guard Cam wondered in his heart. Suddenly, he had an epiphany. This is poison. He then exclaimed in shock. When did you poison me? Jong replied indifferently. Your dagger got my blood on it. What are you talking about? Guard Cam asked in confusion. Jong sneered. My blood is extremely poisonous. I've eaten a lot of poisonous plants since I was young, so my blood turned poisonous. Hearing this, Guard Cam sweats profusely. As for the poison pill you gave me, it doesn't affect me at all. I don't need the antidote. This revelation hit Guard Cam like a thunderclap, and he immediately felt the fear of death. Just moments ago, he had been so arrogant, but now his whole body shook uncontrollably. He didn't want to die and pleaded desperately. Have mercy. Please have mercy. I'll swear my loyalty to you. I'll become your dog. I'll lick your feet if you wish. Just please spare my life. Yet Jong's expression remained cold. I like your attitude. Jong then gives him a smile. How nice is this? With that kind of attitude, we'll work great together. Hearing this, Guard Cam smiled, feeling relieved. But the next second, Jong gave him an ominous smile. We would have if that was how you had acted from the beginning. As soon as he finished speaking, Jong forcefully drove the dagger deep into Guard Cam's chest. How could a dog that switches masters so easily ever be loyal? Jong said coldly, showing no intention of mercy. Loyalty, my ass. Or do you disagree? Jong twisted the dagger harder, which made Guard Cam scream from pain. You're better off dead. Gradually, Guard Cam lost consciousness amid endless regret and reluctance. Having done all this, Jong stood up and stretched lazily. Although it had taken some effort, he felt quite fortunate to have dealt with this major problem so quickly. Then, his gaze turned to Go-chan, who was pretending to be dead nearby. Should I kill Go-chan too? And then he thought to himself, Guard Cam didn't know about the manual being burned, so this guy is quite tight-lipped. He's still useful to me too. Thinking this, he woke Go-chan. Get up quickly. I saw you moving around during the fight. Go-chan, exposed by Jong, was slightly embarrassed and didn't know what to say. By the way, you know how to keep secrets. I'm liking you more and more, Jong said with a smile. Shortly after, Jong instructed Go-chan to dismiss everyone around while he stayed behind to deal with Guard Cam's body. He placed his hand on Guard Cam's body again, and just like before, a warm energy continuously flowed into Jong's body. But this time, Jong wasn't absorbing Guard Cam's chi. He wanted to confirm something else. As Guard Cam's chi was completely absorbed, a dense black energy surged up instantly. This was the death energy emitted after a person dies. Unlike chi, this cold chi did not dissipate after entering Jong's core, making him feel as though he was back to his days as the Scythe Demon. This entire scene was witnessed by Blue Spirit. Now she finally understood why that demon monk obeyed Jong. That's a monster. Jong's demonic powers were likely about to break through. At the same time, inside the room of the second young master, John Yangpyeong, as Mok Yunpyeong's chief guard, thought that Guard Cam would not dare to lie. However, the second young master did not think so. He believed that if Guard Cam were to lie, it would be a lie that could not be easily exposed, because he knew that people like Guard Cam, who were bullies yet fearful at heart, if treated too leniently at the beginning, would definitely become overbearing disappearing later. Thus, the second young master knew well how to handle such people to make them clearly understand who the real master is. Therefore, until the truth was fully uncovered, the second young master decided to appear magnanimous. Only then would Guard Cam bow down before him submissively. Hearing this, deeply admired the second young master Mok Yunpyeong's mastery of manipulating people. People with low loyalty like Guard Cam indeed needed to be tested. However, just then, the door burst open. There's a problem. Guard Han Seng suddenly came to report. Guard Cam attempted to kill the third young master, and the third young master claimed during the investigation in the outer hall that the person who instigated him was none other than young master Mok Yunpyeong. Upon hearing this, everyone in the room was shocked. Regardless of why Guard Cam had suddenly acted this way, the mere accusation by the third young master was enough to infuriate Mok Yunpyeong to the point of rage. He loudly demanded, "Where on earth did Guard Cam go?" Yet no one knew the whereabouts of Guard Cam, as if he had vanished into thin air. Mok Yunpyeong felt something was seriously wrong and immediately grabbed a weapon, ready to confront the third young master himself. Seeing this, everyone quickly stepped forward to stop him. If you attack the third young master now, it would only confirm his accusations. Fuming, Mok Yunpyeong shouted, "Am I supposed to just sit back and let that bastard mock me?" Suddenly, John Yangpyeong thought of a solution. Perhaps we can contact that place. That statement made Mok Yunpyeong stop in his tracks and then listen carefully. If what the third young master says is true, letting them handle it should be simpler than we expected. After all, the organization Guard Cam belongs to is reputed to be very confident in their assassination skills. According to their ironclad rules, failure is absolutely not allowed. Even those who leave the organization are no exception, so they will spare no effort to complete the task. I'll contact them later. John Yangpyeong refers to one of the three assassination organizations of the Central Plains known as the Flying Death School. After hearing John Yangpyeong's suggestion, Mok Yunpyeong's anger gradually subsided and his attitude changed. The Flying Death School, you say? Good. At this moment, Jong was practicing internal strength according to the methods described in the manual, but no matter how he tried, the true chi would mysteriously dissipate as soon as it reached near his core. Unable to detect what went wrong, he called over Go Chan and asked if he knew the reason. After hearing Jong's dilemma, Go Chan's face showed a hint of embarrassment. The guy who didn't even know martial arts yesterday now wanted to feel true chi overnight? This guy must be insane. At this moment, he really wanted to scold Jong, but remembering that he was still just a kid who didn't know any better, and that doing so would likely lead to his own punishment later, he resisted. Reluctantly, Go Chan offered, "Let me test it for you. I'll channel some true chi into your body to see what the problem is." As they sat cross-legged and began the exercise, true chi slowly gathered around Jong. Go Chan was shocked. He really could manipulate true chi. Moreover, from the flow of the true chi, Jong's acupoints appeared completely unblocked, a state not even a master of internal strength could easily achieve daily. Could this guy truly be a one-of-a-kind genius? As Go Chan's true chi moved further into Jong's core, an eerily cold energy suddenly emerged, forcefully pushing Go Chan's hands away, and, as expected, Jong's accumulated true chi dissipated. Seeing Go Chan's hesitant expression, Jong encouraged him to speak openly and honestly. Go Chan said with a wry smile, "Actually, I'm not sure what that strange energy is, but from what we've seen, you really can't accumulate internal strength in your core." Disappointed, Jong wondered if this was as far as he could go. Then, Go Chan added, "Think about it. The energy in your core doesn't seem to be generated by normal breath control. Rather, it feels completely opposite." Hearing this, an idea immediately pops into Jong's mind. Seeing this, Go Chan immediately regretted it, quickly explaining it was just his guess and urged Jong not to take it seriously. However, Jong fell into thought, "Maybe you're right. I should try circulating my chi in reverse." Hearing this, Go Chan was alarmed. Reversing breath control could easily lead to deviating from the path, and he quickly tried to dissuade him. But just then, a mist of blood trapped him firmly. Blue Spirit appeared like a specter, hushing him with a gesture, signaling Go Chan to stay quiet. For familiar, harming their contractor would backfire, but if the contractor died by his own actions, the spirit could be freed. She had long awaited this moment. "Once you become a spirit, I will personally tear you to shreds." Meanwhile, elsewhere in the villa, Lady Suk was meeting someone. It was a Taoist master from Phoenix Pavilion. "You may call me Shua." However, she was uneasy. How could they send only one person when even a formidable man like Shaman Myo was killed? And from the sound of it, a young woman? Furthermore, why was Shaman Myo's body brought back? Shaman Myo's body was brought back as a clue to track the killer. Shua slowly said, "Until I find the murderer of disciple Myo, I will not leave." Hearing the word disciple, Lady Suk is a bit shocked, thinking Shua is higher in status than Shaman Myo. But first, there's one thing I must make clear. The third son, he's going to die. Hearing this, Lady Suk was initially surprised. "Truth be told, I didn't have the highest expectations of you." Then she smiled contentedly, "But now I'm starting to like you." After receiving Lady Suk's confirmation, Shua formed hand seals and chanted a spell. The next second, Shaman Myo's corpse eerily opened its eyes and mouth wide. Simultaneously, Shua struck several more hand seals and plunged a peachwood dagger fiercely into Shaman Myo's corpse. As streams of eerie energy emerged, grotesque lumps bubbled up on Shaman Myo's Myo's body and soon transformed into tentacles that writhed out from his orifices, ultimately forming a giant hand that surged towards the direction of Jong. At this moment, unaware of the looming danger, Jong was in the room, but Blue Spirit sensed something amiss first. By the time she reacted, the giant hand had already grabbed towards Jong's head. Fortunately, Demon Monk reacted first, intercepting the ghost hand, but as a mere yellow spirit, he could not withstand the ghost hand and was easily knocked away. Seeing this, Blue Spirit felt an ominous premonition. Meanwhile, Shua's spellcasting continued, the Peachwood dagger wildly stabbing Shaman Myo's corpse, and with each thrust, Shaman Myo's agony was transmitted unabated to whoever touched the ghost hand. This scene, viewed by Lady Suk, thrilled her immensely. Yes, that's it, let that little brat taste what pain is, she thought. At this time, Blue Spirit also took action. She exhaled a puff of smoke, gently raised her hand, and the blood on the ground instantly turned into countless blades, slicing all the ghost hands apart. Blue Spirit smiled coldly, curious to see who was so bold as to disrupt her plans. With a piercing gaze, Blue Spirit instantly recognized the spellcaster behind the scenes. How dare they try to mess with my prey? She then swung her hand, uttering the word annihilation, and a terrifying energy followed the ghost hand to strike Shua, blowing her away along with Shaman Myo's corpse. Lady Suk immediately ran to her. Master Shua, are you okay? Shua spat blood, her body sweating profusely from shock. She couldn't believe someone could use the ghost hand to cast spells in reverse. This opponent's level was far beyond that of a yellow spirit. She sighed and said to Lady Suk, my lady, it seems our deal needs to be renegotiated. Hearing Shua wanting to change the terms of the deal on the spot, everyone present was perplexed. Shua continued, as you've seen, if my life is to be the stake, then the compensation for this mission must be raised to 1,000 silver coins. Hearing this, Lady Suk frowned. Has that guy really become that dangerous? Typically, a ghost spirit of the yellow spirit level could pose a life threat to humans, but the one you speak of far exceeds this level. A slight mistake could be disastrous. However, rest assured, although most shaman cannot handle a spirit of that level, I am different. Hearing this, Lady Suk thinks carefully, then agrees to Sho's terms, which shocked her guard. However, Lady Suk looks at Sho with piercing eyes. You'd better have a sure method of eliminating Mok Jiangwon. Just as there are ranks among spirit, there are among Taoist masters, and my level is 2 ranks higher than Shaman Myo's. Shua straightened her posture and removed her cloak, revealing a graceful face. Lady Suk was stunned upon learning that Sho was a lot younger than she imagined. Furthermore, I am one of the only 3 Taoist masters in Phoenix Pavilion. Meanwhile, as Shua walked towards the door, an eerie shadow transformed on her body under the light. I assure you, the 3rd young master will definitely not be safe. Her voice echoed coldly through the air. The scene shifted to Blue Spirit, who was furiously upset over the recent events. If Jong died during the circulation of Qi, he couldn't be ruled as a suicide, and thus, the opportunity Blue Spirit had long awaited would be wasted. Therefore, she had to protect Jong at all costs to prevent any disturbances. However, the situation developed unexpectedly. At that moment, streaks of black Qi began to emanate from Jong. Blue Spirit was horrified, barely believing a living person could absorb the Qi of death. Not a single day with him is ordinary, she thought to herself. Not only did he understand the principle behind attachment all by himself, he even immediately accomplished circulating his Qi when he had no clue about it. Despite her reluctance to admit it, Jong's astonishing talent increasingly intrigued her. Jong opened his eyes, observing the gathering black Qi in his hands, and chuckled. As I suspected, this method prevents the Qi from dispersing. It's just a pity that this black Qi is still too sparse to condense into Qi at the core. However, this statement left Blue Spirit utterly speechless. Mortal, are you truly a living human? Hearing this, Jong was confused. What sort of perfectly alive human being is able to drag in the death Qi? Blue Spirit pointed out in confusion. Just then, Jong noticed the room had become a complete mess. At this moment, Demon Monk sat nearby, looking as if he had been through a battle, while Go-chan lay on the ground, sound asleep. Blue Spirit's face turned awkward, about to make an excuse, but Demon Monk sternly interjected and reported everything to Jong. You backstabbing baldy, you were part of it just now too. Blue Spirit turned her head away haughtily. You little devil, I saved you from reverse murder, and not even a thank you. Jong was about to ask what reverse murder is when suddenly, a bizarre scene unfolded. Blue Spirit frowned. You really do attract a lot of annoying things. Just then, Jong notices something on the floor. Shadows began to pour into the room from the doorway. What sort of lunatic thought to control something like this as their familiar? Blue Spirit said in disgust. Jong's first time seeing it, asked what it was. It turns out these are dakibis, native to Mount Yuya, the armor-clad insects. As shadows surged into the room, Jong shockingly discovered that these shadows were comprised of a vast army of poisonous insects. The ones that reside in the mountain are referred to as chimi or mountain spirits, and the ones in the sea as morio or sea spirits. For a long time, the people have called these spirits, which cause disaster and trouble, kaimomorio. Among them was a beast called the mountain-piercing shelled beast, which had the appearance of a bird but possesses the tail of a snake. It could summon insects to attack humans. It is a very dangerous and lethal being. At this moment, however, this formidable army of insects had become Shua's familiar. familiar. For Shua, Shaman Myo's life or death was of no concern to her. However, she was very annoyed to see a familiar face ruined by an evil spirit and killed like that. Thus, the third young master, Mok Jiangwon, must die. With an order from Shua, the beast spread its wings and flew toward Jong's room. At the same time, the insect army began their attack. Seeing this, Jong is a bit nervous. Meanwhile, Go-chan still slept soundly on the bed until Jong slapped his face to wake him. Just as he got up, he was shocked to see bugs swarming them. Whoa, what's all this? Just then, Go-chan felt intense pain in his hand. In just moments, his palms were bitten into swollen wounds by the poisonous insects. Jong urgently instructed Go-chan to circulate his chi to protect himself, but he knew this was only a temporary delay. With so many poisonous insects, they would eventually be devoured if a solution was not found soon. At this time, Blue Spirit stood by. What will you do? You're gonna become insect food at this rate. Her detached attitude mildly infuriating Jong. Blue Spirit, can you help us? But Blue Spirit still appeared indifferent after hearing this. Are you referring to me? Why? What reason do I have to help you? She deliberately responded coldly. You're supposed to be my familiar spirit. Are you gonna keep being uncooperative? Blue Spirit smirked. I'll consider it if you'll give me your body. Hearing this, Jong turned his head back. Never mind. We'll all just die together then. Out of options, Jong continued to fight off the insects with a pillow. As the situation became increasingly desperate, Blue Spirit finally spoke up slowly. How about we make a bet? Hearing this, Jong pauses. If you're truly on the brink of death, it means you've lost, and at that time, you'll have to willingly offer your soul. Conversely, if you can resolve this crisis on your own, I'll support you wholeheartedly in the future. Hearing this, Jong instantly revealed a smile that suggested his plan had worked. Deal. I hope you keep your word, Jong said solemnly. Hearing Jong speak nonchalantly, Blue Spirit is shocked. Young master, there are even more bugs now. What should we do? Go-chan shouted in panic. Go-chan, help me find something to burn. We're going to start a fire in this place. Go-chan was shocked. Starting a fire here was akin to digging their own graves. What on earth was Jong thinking? But with no other option, Go-chan looked toward a nearby lantern. However, the swarm had already heavily surrounded them, making it difficult to reach the lantern. Just then, Jong lightly lifted his hand, smoothly executing the ritual of attachment, and a pulling force immediately drew the lantern into his grasp. Go-chan was frightened, but there was no time for explanations. Jong quickly lit a strip of cloth. He intended to use this method to uncover the mastermind behind the scenes. In fact, from the beginning, Jong had seen through everything. Such a multitude of poisonous insects must have someone casting spells from behind. Normally, ordinary people would not have access to a priest, but Lady Suk was an exception. That is to say, there must be a master of spells beside her, and Jong's purpose in making a large fire was precisely to draw out the mastermind. However, just as the cloth was ignited, suddenly a black fog appeared and instantly extinguished the flame. At the same time, footsteps could be heard from outside. How foolish to think such trivial tricks could deceive me. The voice of Shua came coldly as she nonchalantly walked through the swarm of insects, her right eye emitting a white light, a natural ability of hers that allowed her to see another world made of chi. Whatever you may be doing beyond the walls, you cannot hide from me, Shua stated coldly as she focused her eyes on the wall. At this moment, in Shua's eyes, Jong was enveloped in a red chi, and he was also connected by two red lines. I finally found you. Then, with a loud bang, the entire wall was blown away by a palm strike from Shua. Seeing the mastermind finally appear, Jong gave a cold smile. Nice to meet you. The next second, Demon Monk's figure stealthily appeared above Shua's head. However, Shua remained unfazed, simply uttering a word and an enormous hand materialized out of thin air, immediately pressing Demon Monk to the ground. No matter what you do, it's futile. Seeing the situation growing dire, Go-chan pulled out a dart, hoping to sneak attack, but Shua was prepared. She threw a thunder talisman, and the dart in Go-chan's hand was blasted away before he could even throw it. Jong caught the falling dart, ready to counterattack, but Shua's familiar wings flapped violently, sending a tornado of insects furiously towards Jong. Untrained in martial arts, Jong was immediately swept away by the swarm. Yet, Shua had no intention of stopping. Countless poisonous insects, like a tornado, tightly wrapped around Jong. At this moment, Demon Monk was pinned down by tentacles and couldn't move, the situation easily controlled by Shua. She thought she might have misjudged. Perhaps the opponent's spirit was not at the level of a green spirit. She gently stroked her familiar chin, complimenting its fine work. Let's go now. The swarm of bugs will eat him up if we just leave him be. But just when she thought everything was under control, she suddenly stopped, feeling a strange black chi rose from Jong's body. Shua turned back and was stunned. At the same time, Jong, like a ghostly figure, stood up again without hesitation. He quickly slashed across his own body with the sword in his hand, and blood immediately spurted out. Shua is utterly shocked by the situation. The surrounding poisonous insects, upon contact with the blood, fell like meteors to the ground. Even so, Jong did not stop. He raised his sword again, piercing his own palm, and blood dripped all over his body. Seeing this scene, even the battle-hardened Shua showed a look of terror, unable to believe what she was seeing. In a moment of distraction, Jong charged furiously at her. My blood is a deadly poison, so it's a great way to exterminate like bugs too," Jong said coldly. With that, Jong's sword fiercely stabbed toward Shua's body. Fortunately, Shua reacted in time, narrowly avoiding the strike. She then commanded the mountain-piercing shelled beast to attack. The beast faces head-on with Jong. This time, Shua realized that the insects could no longer harm Jong, so she needed to buy more time. Immediately, Shua began forming seals with her fingers, chanting a spell spirit commanding method. An energy began to gather in her palms. However, Jong clearly wasn't going to give her a chance to complete her spell. Thought-shattering 8 techniques. First technique, Ritual of Attachment. A terrifying suction force erupted from Jong's palm, pulling Shua's familiar towards him, leaving her no chance to resist. It was sucked right next to Jong's hand. Seeing this, Shua was shocked, though she didn't know how Jong had managed it. Finally, "It's quiet," Jong said while fiercely grabbing Shua's familiar by its neck. She stopped her spell casting and lunged at Jong, preparing for a final counterattack. But it was too late. Jong exerted a little pressure with his palm, and Shua immediately felt excruciating pain. What shocked her even more was that Jong in front of her was unabashedly absorbing the death chi she controlled. This scene was beyond her comprehension. Even the most senior elders of the Phoenix Pavilion had never seen a living person who could absorb death chi and survive. Yet Jong not only succeeded in absorbing it, but also turned it into his own power. Jong had originally only intended to capture the bird controlling the poisonous insects, but to his surprise, the bird gave him an unexpected gift. Its vast death chi far exceeded his expectations, even more than what he had gained from personally killing a lot of people. If he could absorb all this death chi, he was confident that he could successfully condense chi within his core. Shua seemed to realize Jong's intentions, her hands trembling as she begged him to stop. "If you keep doing that, it will die." However, Jong just showed a devilish smile, with no intention of stopping at all. Meanwhile, somewhere in Blessing Flower Hall, Lady Suk's residence, Lady Suk anxiously awaited news from Shua. Although she was confident in this commission, after disposing of the third young master, she had to ensure to get her hands on the secret manual. If not, she will make sure that these secrets did not fall into others' hands. Just then, Shua finally appeared in the distance. The lady almost laughed out loud, thinking she had succeeded. Imagining her son soon taking the position of the manor master, her heart was already overjoyed, even starting to envision a future where she was above 10,000 people. However, at that moment, Shua suddenly stopped, and before the crowd could react, she shouted, "Great first madam, we, the Phoenix Pavilion, can no longer accept the order to kill Mok Jae-won." With that statement, the entire place erupted into chaos. With a buzz, Lady Suk's mind went blank. "Cunning bastard, he's the devil himself, to make me do something like this," Shua thought while gritting her teeth. Just now, Jong had used Shua's familiar life as leverage to force her to expose Lady Suk publicly, because he knew that even if Shua was defeated now, the Phoenix Pavilion would continue to send people. Thus, he decided to use this method to turn Lady Suk and the Phoenix Pavilion into enemies. Shua understood that this action was akin to betraying the Phoenix Pavilion, but she had no choice. She continued to shout, "Lady Suk, you claim that young Master Mok Jae-won was possessed by a demon and ordered us to exorcise the evil and take his life. However, upon my confirmation, young Master Mok Jae-won has not been possessed by anything. Therefore, please retract your commission to the Phoenix Pavilion." Instantly, Shua's voice spread throughout the entire villa, turning the once quiet Blessing Flower Hall into a scene of uproar. Hearing that Lady Suk wanted Mok Jae-won's life, many people lit lamps and got up to check, and there were even calls to capture this sinister and vicious lady. At the same time, guards from the outer hall rushed over at the sound. At this moment, Lady Suk was sweating profusely and utterly panicked. When Shua returned to Jong's room, the entire villa was already in chaos. She looked up the window, and Jong, still holding Shua's familiar by the neck, merely smirked. "Is everything taken care of? Just as you wished. The lady has been captured as a criminal, and the Phoenix Pavilion has become hostile to her." Shua said this, gritting her teeth with irritation. To fulfill Jong's demands, she had completely betrayed the Phoenix Pavilion, and her life might be hunted by them from now on. She reached out to Jong, "Give me back my familiar spirit as promised," but he just smirked ghostly and said, "Before that, I have some questions to ask you." Moments later, inside the room, Shua looked puzzled. "You want to know about spirit and goblins?" "Yes, including Demon Monk by my side, and those who can control them, especially you from the Phoenix Pavilion," Jong answered. However, upon hearing Jong's question, Shua didn't know how to respond. Although she confirmed that Jong wasn't possessed by an evil spirit, she still couldn't understand how he managed to turn an evil spirit into a familiar, and on top of that, she could see another one. Seeing that Shua didn't respond, Jong slightly increased the pressure on his hand. Frightened, Shua hurriedly began to speak. "There are 6 levels to the Kaimamoryo: ominous beasts, strange beasts, mythical beasts, demonic beasts, sacred beasts, and divine beasts. Even the lowest level, the ominous beast, can bring significant disaster to humans, and as their level increases, they become even more dangerous. As for the Phoenix Pavilion, only 3 people can control such beasts as their familiar spirits. One of them is Go, who has long aided the Hall Master. He handles the strange beast of Luwu Mountain known as Gudiao. Although I don't know its ability, abilities. It's said that its mere presence is a major disaster. The second one is the master of the Phoenix Pavilion. Although no one knows what monster he controls, but its level is certainly very high. Jong curiously asked, could he be controlling a sacred beast or a divine beast? Shua denied his speculation. No, those only exist in legends, let alone becoming a human familiar. Therefore, it's most likely that the Pavilion Master's familiar is either a mythical beast or a demonic beast. Having said that, Shua pulled out a copy of the Classic of Mountains and Seas from her pocket. The details about these monsters are all recorded in this book. If there's anything unclear, you can look it up carefully. Jong took the book, flipping through it casually as if finding a treasure. Even these lowest level monsters contain such immense energy. He began to look forward to encountering higher level monsters. Then, he casually threw the familiar spirit back to Shua. Watching her critically injured familiar in her arms, Shua trembled with anger, but still had to forcibly thank him. Even Go-chan thought Jong was being a bit excessive. Moments later, watching Shua's indignant departure, Jong felt great joy in his heart. Now, the Lady Suk could no longer pose a threat to him, and he had absorbed huge amounts of energy from Shua's familiar, enough to form inner power in his core. This meant that no one could stop him from learning martial arts anymore. But at that moment, Go-chan asked in confusion, are you really just going to let her go? Now that you two have such a deep grudge, she will surely not let you go in the future. To this, Jong was unconcerned. Since I promised to let her go, I will keep my word. Moreover, she won't be able to pose a threat to me anymore. Hearing this, Go-chan is confused. Just then, Jong smiled as if talking to someone. Now, it's time for you to fulfill your part of the promise. Not long after, outside the Blessing Flower Hall, holding the dying familiar in her arms, she vowed that one day she would return for revenge. However, the next second, a tremendous force hit her, causing her to stagger backward, followed by instinctive trembling as she felt an impending death, the horror and evil too great. At the same time, her right eye began bleeding, and a pair of hands quietly appeared behind her head. A second later, her right eye burst open, and the crimson moonlight enveloped everything around. Just then, Blue Spirit appeared like a specter before Shua, coldly smiling, even without eyes. You still look so lovely. At that moment, Shua was numb all over from the eerie aura. Simultaneously, a strange scene occurred. The blood from the corner of her eye didn't drip down, but gathered and surged crazily into her mouth. Back in the outer hall of Blessing Flower Hall, the First Lady was desperately defending herself. How could I possibly harm the third young master? It must be him and that priestess conspiring against me. But her words were soon interrupted. She immediately stopped speaking. This person was Sang Woongbeek, the outer hall master. Unlike the chief of the inner hall, Sang Woongbeek was utterly loyal to the manor master, thus being the most influential figure among the household servants, unreachable by the First Lady. Sang Woongbeek interrogated the Great Lady. I heard there was a conflict between you and the third young master. What exactly happened? Lady Suk claimed, because he disobeyed orders. But these words, merely questioned in passing. How could Sang Woongbeek possibly believe them? Isn't it because you plan to kill the manor master? Sang Woongbeek asked coldly. The lady was shocked. She intended to explain something, but upon seeing Sang Woongbeek's grim expression, she quieted down immediately. Sang Woongbeek continued, I will not ignore the attempt on the third young master's life, so I hope you will cooperate fully. However, you needn't worry. Everyone will undergo a fair investigation. We will look very thoroughly into you and the second son, as well as the third son. After the lady left, Sang Woongbeek fell into deep thought. He couldn't understand why. Even though the third young master neither had martial arts skills nor powerful marriage alliances, both the second young master and the lady saw him as a thorn in their side. Could it be that this guy has some unspeakable secret? Sang Woongbeek mused to himself. Now thinking back to the time when Mok Jaeongwon was being interrogated in the outer hall, he indeed seemed different than usual. At first, Sang Woongbeek thought he was just scared, hence the temporary strange behavior, but up to now, Mok Jaeongwon's actions gave him an odd feeling. It seems this third young master requires my personal attention, he thought to himself. After Blue Spirit dealt with Shua, she slipped back into the room through the walls silently. Demon Monk quickly greeted her with a respectful fist salute. Seeing Mok Jaeongwon focusing on his breathing and energy, she was again surprised. Unexpectedly, this guy could not only control ghost spirits, but also absorb death energy from them. From the current situation, it seemed he was about to condense the absorbed death energy into his energy core, known to be denser than the death energy emitted by the deceased. Not just humans, but even ghost spirits would suffer backlash if they absorbed it. Yet Jong seemed perfectly fine. Blue Spirit pouted, brought her face close to Jong's, and carefully examined his features. His fair and tender appearance completely met the standards of a handsome young man, and for a moment, Blue Spirit found herself quite entranced. Just then, Jong suddenly opened his eyes. What are you doing? This startled Blue Spirit, but she quickly recovered. If she now admitted she was admiring his handsome features, it would be quite embarrassing. So, she immediately backed off and turned her head away, starting to divert the topic. Jong looked at Blue Spirit, seemingly realizing something. When Blue Spirit looked back, Jong suddenly burst into laughter. Seeing his expression, Blue Spirit unexpectedly blushed. She arched an eyebrow and quickly told Jong to stop talking nonsense and continue focusing on his breathing and energy energy cultivation. At this moment, Blue Spirit also felt regret for making that bet with such a young kid. It was all because of that damn girl's incompetence. Just then, Jong slowly spoke, indicating he needed Blue Spirit's help to confirm whether he had successfully condensed the energy core. Blue Spirit smirked and noncommittally responded, expecting to condense an energy core within a single day. Before she could finish, Jong interrupted, "Is that even possible? Then what's this little bump below my navel?" Hearing this, Blue Spirit's eyebrows furrowed, and she looked at Mok Jae-won incredulously. She was utterly shocked. Such rapid success was hard for Blue Spirit to accept. "It looks like I need to check it myself." With that, Blue Spirit reached out towards Jong's core. However, when her palm touched his body, a tremendous force repelled her hand away. This was the first time Blue Spirit had encountered such a situation. Curious, she quickly called Demon Monk to try as well. But no matter how hard they tried, their hands couldn't touch Jong's body. "Is it because I'm a familiar spirit now?" Blue Spirit thought to himself. Then, Blue Spirit turned her gaze to Go-chan, who was soundly asleep beside them. She reached into his belly without obstruction. Go-chan immediately woke up in pain and then fainted from the shock. "He's being so dramatic," Blue Spirit muttered to herself. It turns out, Blue Spirit forgot that from the moment inner power begins to condense in the core, the body becomes extremely sensitive, and even a slight touch can cause intense pain. However, she didn't care whether Go-chan would faint or not. "Anyway, it doesn't seem like a problem on my end." Jong asked again, "Isn't there any other way to confirm?" Blue Spirit thought for a moment. "There is another method," but before she could finish, they heard a knock at the door. Sang Wongbik, the hall master of the outer hall, had come for a late-night visit. Jong, also curious, prepared to greet this unexpected visitor. Having met Sang Wongbik once during the interrogation in the outer hall, Jong remembered him well. As a servant who had served 2 generations of manor masters, his beliefs are very firm, and the elders trust him. Because of that, even Lady Suk can't do anything to him. Jong knew well the influence Sang Wongbik had in Mok Sword Manor. At this moment, seeing Mok Jae-won sitting on the bed, Sang Wongbik's expression seemed a bit gloomy, but the next second, he suddenly knelt down, bowing his head. "It's all due to my negligence that the 3rd young master was attacked." Jong shook his hand after hearing this, indicating, "It's not your fault. I don't mind, so you don't need to blame yourself. I'm completely fine." Sang Wongbik, looking at Mok Jae-won like this, flashed a strange look in his eyes. He pretended to check Jong's injuries, but he stopped midway when he raised his hand. Although Jong found it odd, he was quickly distracted by Sang Wongbik's next move. Sang Wongbik smiled and patted Jong's shoulder, saying, "I truly appreciate that the 3rd young master can think this way." Then, Sang Wongbik looked around cautiously and asked Jong, "The dagger I sent you last time, I don't see it. Since the manor master has been ill, I've given each young master a weapon for self-defense. Did you lose it?" Realizing his mistake, Mok Jae-won quickly found an excuse, saying, "I put it in the drawer of the closet." Hearing this, Sang Wongbik burst into laughter. "I would have been sad had you lost it." But Jong's face suddenly changed. Then he said, "But I don't remember ever receiving a dagger." As soon as the words left his mouth, Sang Wongbik's expression darkened instantly. "That's because I never sent you guys that thing." With that, he suddenly punched towards Jong. Fortunately, Jong reacted in time, dodging the blow with a swift movement. However, in the next second, Sang Wongbik struck out with lightning speed, pointing several fingers while loudly demanding, "Who exactly are you? You made 2 mistakes," Sang Wongbik explained. "Firstly, the 3rd young master gets very arrogant when someone submits to him. Secondly, since he is often bullied by the 4th young master, he instinctively dodges whenever someone reaches out to him. But just now, your expression was completely calm, and you showed no fear at all. Now that I have locked all your acupoints, you won't be able to move. You might as well confess. Where is the real 3rd young master?" However, after hearing Sang Wongbik's words, Jong gave a mysterious smile. The next second, his body, which should have been immobilized, suddenly moved. Sang Wongbik was shocked, not understanding how Jong managed it, but by then it was too late. Just as he heard the word Blue Spirit from Jong's mouth, an unusual palm pierced through Sang Wongbik's body. In an instant, Sang Wongbik felt a strange power gripping his heart tightly, frightening him into immobility. Seeing this, Jong praised Blue Spirit. "You're just as skilled as I expected." Blue Spirit slowly understood the situation. Since life chi and death chi are on the opposite ends of the spectrum, the innate energy he uses to pin your meridian would naturally scatter. With this, she confirmed that Jong definitely formed an energy core. Realizing this, she can't help but be amazed. A body resistant to acupuncture without needing an immense amount of chi. How interesting. Jong did manage to create an energy core, but someone caught his identity, so he can't stay any longer. Thinking this, Jong had a new idea, and he lightly uttered the word Demon Monk. "Possess him." Hearing this, Blue Spirit smirked. "You're basically a demon yourself." At that moment, Sang Wongbik could no longer keep calm. Although he did not know who Jong was talking to, he felt a deathly fear from hell, as his body was already tightly bound by numerous tendrils. Jong's showdown with Sang Wongbik, the outer hall master, finally came to an end at the appearance of the Demon Monk. From then on, there was one less person in Mok Sword Manor who could threaten Jong, which delighted him greatly. The next morning, Go-chan woke up from a coma and was immediately summoned to Jong's room. On the way to the room, Go-chan Go-chan saw the guards of the outer hall standing solemnly and a lot more polite. At Jong's door, a guard greeted him. "Welcome. The young master is waiting." This situation made him very curious. Just what is going on? Before Go-chan could recover from his confusion, the moment he pushed open the door, he was stunned by the scene before him. Sang Wongbik, the outer hall master, was respectfully standing in front of Jong. "You're excused, outer hall master." "Yes, I'll be going," Sang Wongbik said with a bow, and when he left, he even nodded respectfully at Go-chan. Go-chan couldn't believe what he was seeing and didn't understand what had changed in the world after last night. At that moment, Jong finally spoke, casually inviting Go-chan to join him for breakfast, which scared Go-chan quite a bit, as Jong seemed so unperturbed at the moment. Just as Go-chan was about to ask what had happened, Jong spoke first. "Can you teach me the basic techniques of mock sword manners martial arts?" Hearing this, Go-chan was so startled that the food he was about to eat fell from his chopsticks. Jong had begun trying to practice martial arts based on the descriptions in the secret manual of mock sword manner. However, he found that no matter how he practiced, he couldn't perform the movements coherently. Later, he learned from Blue Spirit that these actions were mainly to lay a foundation for practitioners. The so-called martial arts secrets were based on extending and evolving these basic movements to a higher level. This meant that without understanding the basic techniques, no matter how much he practiced, he wouldn't grasp their significance. For someone like Jong, who knew nothing about martial arts, mastering the sword techniques of mock sword manner required first learning the mock sword manner basic techniques. However, after hearing Jong's words, Go-chan stood up excitedly. "Does that mean you also want to become the master of mock sword manner?" Obviously, he had misunderstood Jong's intention. "I just thought it'd be useful." Upon hearing this, Go-chan finally realized, but he still declined Jong's request, "Because the basic techniques of mock sword manner, I've only ever glimpsed them from a distance, so I don't know what they are really like. For a renowned family like mock sword manner, even the basic techniques are only allowed to be practiced by family members." Jong looked at him directly. "Then the people who know these techniques are the manor master and the other young masters." Upon hearing this, Jong put his chopsticks on the bowl and stroked his chin thoughtfully. He had thought that the warriors of mock sword manner would all know the basic techniques, but he didn't expect such a result. But how could the other young masters possibly teach him the basic techniques? And if anything went wrong in the process, his identity might also be exposed. "If that's the case, then there's nothing I can do," he said, and decisively got up, asking Go-chan to follow him. When Go-chan learned that Jong was planning to find someone who could teach him the basic techniques, he quickly tried to intervene, but no matter what he said, Jong still walked out without looking back. Following Jong to the destination, Go-chan was once again shocked by Jong's bold decision, because the person Jong was seeking was Mok Yu-chun, the fourth young master, who had beaten him half to death 2 years ago. Jong went to the training ground to ask Mok Yu-chun, and they saw him training as usual. Jong was about to approach Mok Yu-chun. Seeing Mok Yu-chun's muscular physique, Go-chan was so frightened he could hardly speak. "I told you there was an incident." Jong remembers what Go-chan said the other day, but that doesn't stop him from going. "The scene of Mok Jae-won being beaten is still vivid in my mind." Go-chan couldn't help but say. The third young master's legs and ribs were broken in multiple places. He was sobbing and crying. It was a whole mess. The fourth young master's resentment towards the third young master has reached an irreconcilable point, and most importantly, despite being only 16 years old, his martial arts skills have reached a peak. Blue Spirit also spoke up. "I too have sensed the extraordinary power in the fourth young master. There aren't many with an aura like this at this age. It's not an exaggeration to call him a once-in-a-generation genius. If I were still alive, I would definitely take him as my disciple." After speaking, Blue Spirit urged Jong to be cautious, as she could not exert her full strength during the day. To this, Jong just smirked devilishly and casually walked towards the fourth young master. On the other side, Mok Yu-chun suddenly saw Mok Jae-won appear before him, first startled, then his expression darkened. Jong greeted him, but he just turned his head. "If you don't want to be beaten again, you'd better scram." But before he could finish speaking, Mok Yu-chun's expression turned to shock. Jong pulled out the mock sword manner's supreme secret manual from his bosom and asked with a smile, "Do you want this?" He then tossed it unhesitatingly to Mok Yu-chun, who caught it swiftly. Seeing this, Mok Yu-chun's eyes widened, initially skeptical of the authenticity of the manual, but after taking it and examining it closely, he was astonished to find that it indeed contained many profound principles. It truly was mock sword manner's heart method manual. But soon, Mok Yu-chun noticed that several pages were missing from the manual. Mok Yu-chun asked Jong where are the ripped pages, and Jong nodded slowly. "They have all been memorized in my mind." At this point, Mok Yu-chun had no idea what Jong was planning. He knew the manor master would never pass the manual to Mok Jae-won, so he asked again, "How did you get it?" Jong did not respond, his expression unchanged. However, this infuriated Mok Yu-chun, who shouted, "If you came here to boast that the position of manor master is yours, then get lost before I beat you up again." After speaking, he angrily threw the manual at Jong, but Jong simply picked it up nonchalantly and said, "It seems you've misunderstood something. I'm just here to negotiate with you. I'm not interested in the position of manor master." Hearing this, Mok Yu-chun laughed. He punched Jong in the face without hesitation, not believing a word and thinking that Jong was clearly plotting something. With a bang, the tremendous force sent Jong flying backward. If you've forgotten what happened 2 years ago, I don't mind helping you recall, so you can never try anything with me ever again. Blood streaming from Jong's nose. Yet at that moment, Jong laughed. Indeed different. Besides that guy with the black sword, you are the first to hit me so hard. This was his first time experiencing such a stark disparity between masters. He finally understood why Go-chan called Mok-yu-chan a monster. Facing such an opponent, Jong was very clear that this was not someone he could defeat just by luck. However, this made him even more eager. If he learned martial arts, could he also become so powerful? He wiped the blood from his mouth and smiled slightly. Your fist is indeed very hard. Seeing Mok Jae-woon stand up again, still scoffing at himself, Mok Yu-chan's face was full of surprise. He issued another warning to Jong. If you want to taste more punches, I don't mind giving you a refresher. But then Jong laughed and said, I know you still have your doubts. No, this is not doubt, but certainty, because I will not believe a single word you say. Mok Yu-chan clenched his fists, realizing that since things had come to this, he should teach this guy a harsh lesson, just like he had done 2 years ago. However, just as he was about to throw a punch, Jong smiled and said, then there's no helping it. I'll just have to pass the secret manual to the lady or our second brother. Hearing this, Mok Yu-chan's face changed dramatically, and he shouted angrily, how dare you threaten me? Yet Jong remained unmoved. Believing it or not is your choice, but if you choose so, after I give them the manual, I will still get what I want, but you might not. Mok Yu-chan was stunned by this remark, for he fully understood its implications. At this moment, Mok Yu-chan looked at the fearless gaze of Jong, and his body involuntarily trembled. Who are you? Are you really Mok Jae-woon? Mok Yu-chan questioned. Hearing this, Go-chan behind him was shocked, secretly thinking, could it be that Jong's identity had been exposed? However, Jong's expression remained unchanged, and he smiled slightly, looking straight at Mok Yu-chan. Who else would I be? You speak as if you know me well. Mok Yu-chan's gaze faltered. Of course, I know you. You're the one I beat up like a dog 2 years ago, a coward who would even run away from looking at me because of fear. Jong responded calmly, you're right about that, but besides that incident and the fact that we are half-brothers, what else do you know about me, including what I like, what I dislike, and even why I am willing to give up the position of master? You know nothing about me. Hearing this, Mok Yu-chan was taken aback. The huge change in this brother over the past 2 years surprised him. Despite Jong's justified stance, he still shouted loudly, why do you question me? You people despise me for my lowly background, alienate me, ignore me. No one has ever acknowledged me. Why are you seeking me out now instead of dealing with those who think they are nobler? Jong answered nonchalantly, because you are the best among them. Instantly, Mok Yu-chan fell silent. He stared incredulously into Jong's eyes. Suffering from his lowly origins, he had endured torment from a young age, spending his childhood in loneliness. Yet today, he heard someone acknowledge him, and it was the person he least expected. Did this mean he needed to change as well? Mok Yu-chan let down his guard and said bluntly, very well, then tell me what you want. Hearing this, Jong is very pleased. Moments later, on the way back to his room, Go-chan looked up to Jong with utmost admiration. It must be said, in terms of strategy, Jong did an exceptionally good job. He had been worried that his request to Mok Yu-chan to learn basic techniques would arouse suspicion, but Jong had managed to get his agreement so naturally. Just now, Jong had made 3 demands to Mok Yu-chan. First and foremost, the most important thing, if you become the master in the future, you absolutely must not lay a hand on me. As for the second thing, you must provide me with sufficient financial support. Mok Yu-chan's expression was serious as he promised Jong that as long as Jong didn't provoke him first, he would not lay a hand on him. After receiving a positive response, Jong casually made his final request, which was for Mok Yu-chan to teach him the basic martial arts techniques of Mok sword manner. As expected, when Mok Yu-chan heard this request, he agreed without any hesitation and even mocked Jong for forgetting something so simple. This, of course, was Jong's plan. From the moment they first met, Jong had been subtly directing Mok Yu-chan's attention to the first 2 demands. After gaining Mok Yu-chan's trust, the request to learn the basic techniques seemed trivial. Mok Yu-chan didn't doubt him one bit and just laughed at him for forgetting the basics and agrees to teach him. So, Mok Yu-chan revealed the secret formulas of the basic techniques to Jong, and Jong thought the missing pages of the manual to Mok Yu-chan. Reflecting on everything that had just happened, Go-chan once again looked at Jong with admiration. However, what made him feel regretful was how easily Mok Yu-chan obtained the manual. However, Jong didn't care, because he had altered the contents of the manual, changing one word in every 13 or 14 characters. At first, he worried it might be discovered, but to his surprise, the process went smoothly. Upon hearing this, Go-chan broke into a cold sweat. No wonder Jong had been so open about revealing the manual's contents to Mok Yu-chan. Wasn't he afraid that Mok Yu-chan would practice the wrong techniques and mess up his vital energy, leading to a dangerous outcome? Jong coldly replied, what about it? At that moment, Go-chan felt a chill run down his spine. This guy didn't care at all whether Mok Yu-chan would be harmed. He was truly a devil. Before the previous storm had even subsided, another one had begun. Due to the betrayal of Shua, the relationship between the Phoenix Pavilion and the Suk clan plan had completely broken down. In order to uncover the truth, the Pavilion master ordered that Shua must be found. However, even with all the disciples of the Pavilion searching, there was still no trace of him. Eventually, in order to salvage the reputation of the organization, the eldest elder had to personally take action. At this moment, in a secluded forest, as the talisman in the hands of Master Gu burned out completely, he looked at the crimson stain on the ground and fell into deep thought. As one of the three most powerful spellcasters of the Phoenix Pavilion, what kind of force could have been strong enough to kill her so ruthlessly? Thinking of this, he immediately began forming hand seals, muttering a few incantations. In an instant, the surrounding winds began to howl. The next moment, a red light flashed in Master Gu's eyes, and everything Shua had experienced before her death seemed to play like a revolving lantern in front of his eyes. But before he could fully process the information, a chilling coldness descended upon him. At this moment, he felt the bone-deep fear Shua had felt before her death, as if his body had fallen into an endless inferno. Instantly, he snapped back to reality, frozen in place, unable to regain his senses for a long time. After a while, he sighed deeply. I didn't expect this thing could already reach into the spiritual realm. I had underestimated the situation before. Then, he looked up at the sky and murmured, "It seems we need to prepare again." At the same time, a shadow in the shape of an eagle flapped its wings in response. The scene shifted, and at Mock Sword Manor, Jong began practicing the basic martial arts formulas provided by Mock Yu-chan. Every movement he made was seamless, flowing without any hesitation, completely unlike a beginner learning martial arts for the first time. Even Blue Spirit, who was nearby, stared blankly, completely mesmerized. Normally, when an ordinary person begins learning martial arts, they start with basic movements, practicing them over many years, linking each movement together to eventually form a full set of martial arts techniques. However, Jong directly skipped this most important step. Thanks to his incredible memory and comprehension ability, he didn't need to practice each movement separately. For him, all that was left was to continuously train his muscles. Seeing Jong's astonishing martial arts talent, Blue Spirit felt deeply frustrated. She had originally thought Jong would rely on her for guidance, not that I was going to. Of course. Well, if he begged, maybe I could. This sense of defeat made her feel quite uncomfortable. Jong, noticing this, was curious about what she was thinking. Just then, Go-chan appeared. Jong smiled. "You're just in time. I need you to help me with something." Hearing this, Go-chan looked completely confused. Not long after, Go-chan stared at the strange symbol in his hand, deep in thought. The symbol was very simple, yet he had never seen it before. Jong had asked him to contact an intelligence agency to gather information about it. So, he went to the Eternal Orchid Pavilion. This place was considered to be at the bottom of the intelligence network, but it was the only one nearby. As for whether he would get any useful information, Go-chan had little hope. Thinking about his pitiful life, which had now been reduced to running errands, Go-chan sighed deeply. However, he wasn't particularly bothered by it since he had never had any real goals in life. His parents had abandoned him when he was very young, and he had become an assassin. But due to a lack of talent, he was soon kicked out of the organization. At first, he had followed his senior, Guard Cam, just because they had both been cast out by the organization. He knew Guard Cam was never a good person and had always treated him as a tool. Though it was still the same now, Go-chan had come to enjoy this drifting feeling. At least, he felt like he was still alive. Well, I guess life right now is better than before. I am working less, that's for sure, Go-chan said with a smile. The only thing that worried him was Jong's elaborate plans, which were always unpredictable. While Go-chan was lost in his thoughts, a fat man with a woman in tow walked in. He was the owner of the Eternal Orchid Pavilion, Guac. His face flushed with drunkenness. He asked Go-chan, "She's new here. What do you think of her? Isn't she pretty, right?" Go-chan was very angry. Although the woman was indeed dazzlingly beautiful, now was not the time to consider such things. Send her out. However, Guac's mind was not on work at all, still fixed on the woman's graceful figure, unable to look away. Seeing how angry Go-chan was, Guac reluctantly let the woman leave first, but as the woman got up to leave, he still tried to grope her behind. This completely enraged Go-chan, but before he could react, a slap landed on Guac's face with a smack. The woman muttered a few words, "Ugh, I can't take it anymore," and then she took off the wig on her head. At this moment, both Go-chan and Guac were still dumbfounded. However, the next second, with a strange movement, the woman grabbed Guac's head, and with a crack, his body fell to the ground like a puppet with its strings cut. Startled by this scene, Go-chan hurriedly tried to draw his sword, but the woman took the opportunity to kick over the table. Go-chan was utterly shocked. Several wooden spikes appeared in her hands out of thin air, and before he could react, they were thrust into Go-chan's acupoints. At this time, the woman shed her disguise, revealing a delicate figure. "I'm disappointed that you didn't recognize me, number 86, or rather Mr. Go-chan." Hearing this voice, Go-chan was utterly panicked, stammering, "Madam?"